The spaceport was crowded, filled with the noise of different species talking, arguing, and rushing to their ships. But in the middle of that chaos, one human stood frozen. His name was Daniel, an ordinary worker who never thought his life would change in a single moment. Across from him stood a girl, not human, but alien. She was taller than most of the crowd, her skin a pale silver blue that shimmered under the station's cold lights. Her long hair hid half her face, and her deep violet eyes avoided everyone's gaze. She was known to be shy, quiet, and never speaking unless forced to. But now her voice cut through the air like a blade. "I'm giving you one chance. Human, do it now or never." Her words made Daniel's heart pound. Everyone nearby turned to look. The shy alien girl who never raised her voice had shouted at him, and the look in her eyes. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Daniel swallowed hard. What do you mean? What chance?" The girl's hand trembled as she pointed toward the docking gates. Shadows moved in the distance, armed figures. Hunters, or maybe soldiers. Daniel could not tell, but he knew from her shaking voice that they were dangerous. "You must decide now," she whispered. "If you wait even 1 second more, everything will be lost." Daniel's throat went dry. He had never seen her like this before. The shy alien girl, always silent and hiding in the corners of the station, was suddenly fierce. Her voice still trembled, but the fire in her eyes told him this was no joke. The human tried to think. He wanted to ask more questions. What's happening? Why me? But the urgency in her voice stopped him. He could feel her desperation, almost like it was pouring out of her soul. The crowd around them kept moving, unaware of the danger. Ships lifted off, engines roared, and merchants shouted prices. But in that moment, Daniel felt as if the whole world had gone quiet. It was only him and her. Her breathing was heavy, fast. She leaned closer, her voice breaking. "I don't trust anyone else, only you. If you refuse, they will catch me, and my people will suffer. You have one chance, human, one chance." Daniel's chest tightened. Why was she asking him? But he was. No soldier, no hero. Just a man who cleaned ship engines for a living. But the way she looked at him, the way her violet eyes begged, made him feel as if the weight of galaxies had been placed on his shoulders. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could answer, the sound of boots echoed across the hall. The armed figures were closer now. Their armor glowed with red lines, their helmets sharp and menacing. The girl grabbed Daniel's arm. Her hand was cold, trembling, but her grip was strong. "O's now," she cried. "Help me, or walk away. But if you walk away, it will all end here." Daniel's heart raced so hard he thought it might burst. His instincts screamed at him to run, to escape, to pretend he never saw her. But another voice inside him whispered something different. "This is your moment. One chance." The shy alien girl pressed closer, her words shaking. "Do you not hear? Me, human. It is now or never." Her desperate cry echoed in his mind, louder than the noise of the station, louder than the hunter's heavy boots. For the first time, Daniel realized this was not just her fight. It was his, and whatever choice he made in the next few seconds would change both of their lives forever. Daniel's chest rose and fell in quick breaths. The shy alien girl's hand was still gripping his arm tightly. Her silver blue skin felt cold, but her hold was strong, almost desperate. He could see the fear in her violet eyes, but also something else: trust. She was trusting him, a stranger, in this dangerous moment. The sound of heavy boots grew louder. The hunters, or soldiers, were closing in. Their glowing red armor reflected the bright lights of the station. Daniel's instincts screamed inside his head. Run, hide, stay out of this. He was just an engine cleaner, not a fighter, not a hero. Why should he risk his life for someone he barely knew? But then her words repeated in his mind like thunder. One chance, Huma, do it now or never. Daniel clenched his fists. His legs felt weak, but his heart refused to let him run away. What do you want me to do? He asked in a shaky voice. The alien girl's breath trembled as she spoke quickly. There is a ship, Dock 12. If we reach it before they see us, we can escape. But you must guide me. I cannot pass through the scanners alone. They will detect me. Daniel blinked in shock. Me? Why me? Because you are human, she whispered, her voice sharp but soft at the same time. The scanners are designed to ignore your kind. They do not see humans as a threat. But me, if I walk through, I will be caught instantly. Her words hit him like a strike of lightning. He suddenly understood his ordinary, weak life meant nothing to the soldiers. To them, he was invisible. But to her, he was the only way out. The boots were closer now. Daniel turned his head slightly and saw the armored figures spreading out, their glowing visors scanning the crowd. His throat went dry. They were hunting, and they were almost here. The girl's grip tightened. Please, she begged. You must decide. If you walk away, I will be taken, and it will not end with me. My people will suffer. My chance will be lost. Daniel closed his eyes for 1 second. He remembered all the days he spent fixing engines, ignored by the important people of the galaxy. He was always invisible, always unimportant. But now, this. Shy alien girl was asking him to make a choice that mattered. His heart pounded. Slowly, he nodded. Fine, I'll help you. The girl's eyes widened, filled with relief. For the first time, her lips curved into a small, shaky smile. Then hurry. We must move. Daniel led the way, trying to look normal as they pushed through the crowd. His palms were sweaty, and every sound of boots behind them made him want to run. But he forced himself to walk steady. The girl stayed close to him, her long hair hiding her face, her head bent low. Don't look back, Daniel whispered. Just follow me. They passed through the crowd, weaving between merchants, travelers, and station guards. The scanners. Ahead glowed blue, gates opening and closing as people passed. Daniel's stomach twisted. What if her plan didn't work? What if the scanners detected her anyway? When they reached the gate, Daniel stepped forward first. The scanner blinked green instantly. No alarm, no problem. He let out a breath of relief. Your turn, he whispered. Looking at her, the shy alien girl lowered her head and stepped close behind him, almost pressing into his back. Daniel held his breath as they walked through together. For a second, the scanner glowed red. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. But then, the glow faded back to green and the gate opened. They passed through safely. The girl exhaled, her body trembling. From the tension? You did it, she whispered. But Daniel didn't have time to celebrate. From behind them, a metallic voice shouted, Target detected. Secure the area. His blood turned cold. The hunters had spotted them. Run. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her into the crowd. They pushed past shocked travelers, knocking over crates and bags. The hunters shouted, their boots thundering as they gave chase. The station became chaos. Merchants screamed, alarms blared, and doors began to lock. But Daniel didn't stop. He ran, dragging her behind him. For the first time in his life, he was not invisible. He was a target. The girl's voice trembled as she shouted over the noise, Dock 12. We must reach Dock 12. Daniel's legs burned, but he pushed harder. He had chosen. He had taken her one chance. And now, there was no turning back. The echo of boots followed Daniel and the alien girl through the twisting corridors of the spaceport. Red warning lights flashed overhead, alarms blaring as the hunters searched. Daniel's lungs burned, his legs heavy, but he didn't stop. He pulled the girl along, her hand gripping his tightly as if she would never let go. "Doc 12, she whispered, her voice breathless but steady. "We're close." Daniel glanced at her as they ran. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also something deeper, something she wasn't saying. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice low. "Why are they chasing you?" She stayed quiet for a moment. Her long silver blue hair fell over her face, hiding her expression. At last she whispered, "They are hunters. They belong to the council. And I am not supposed to exist." Daniel nearly stumbled. Not supposed to exist? What does that even mean? The girl's voice trembled as she explained. "My people believe in strength. Only the strong are allowed to lead, to live. With pride, I was born different, smaller, weaker, quieter. They called me useless. They said I brought shame to my kind. So they tried to erase me." Her words sent a chill through Daniel. "Erase you?" She nodded, her violet eyes shimmering with pain. "I was hidden for years. I survived only because my mother protected me. But now she is gone, and they know I'm alive. The council sent hunters to finish what they started." Daniel's heart ached. She was young, fragile, and yet carrying a burden heavier than most could bear. "So why come to me?" he asked. "Why trust a human you barely know?" For the first time, she looked him straight in the eyes. Her voice cracked, but her words were firm. "Because humans are different. You see value in what others throw away. You fight for the weak. I believe you can fight for me, too." Daniel swallowed hard. Her words struck something deep inside him. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, invisible, but to her, he was hope. The sound of boots thundered closer. The hunters were relentless. Daniel dragged her into a maintenance tunnel, the narrow path lit by dim red lights. They crouched low, hiding in the shadows as armored figures marched past. For a moment, silence. Only their heavy breathing filled the tunnel. Daniel leaned against the wall, trying to calm his racing heart. "You've been running your whole life, haven't you?" he whispered. The girl lowered her head. "Yes, running. Hiding, never speaking. My people laugh at silence. They say words are weapons, and mine were too soft to ever cut. But now, for the first time, I raised my voice, and I gave it to you." Daniel stared at her in awe. The shy alien girl, once afraid to speak, had shouted at him in front of everyone, demanding his choice. She had risked everything. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed down the tunnel. The hunters had found their trail. Red light beams swept across the walls. "Go," Daniel whispered urgently, grabbing her hand again. They sprinted through the narrow passage, their footsteps echoing. The tunnel opened into a wide loading bay, filled with crates and containers. Beyond the chaos, Daniel spotted at the entrance to Dock 12. His chest tightened with hope. There, we're almost there, but the hunters were fast. Their mechanical voices boomed across the bay. A target. Sighted, do not let them escape. Laser fire erupted, burning holes into the metal walls. Sparks flew around them as Daniel pulled the girl behind a stack of crates. His heart pounded in his ears. He had never been in a firefight before. The girl crouched low, her hands trembling. "They won't stop. Not until I'm gone." Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then we won't give them the chance." For the first time, she reached out and touched his shoulder gently. Her voice softened. "You should leave me. If they catch you, you will die too." "I can't let you know." Daniel cut her off, his voice firm. "You said 1 chance. I took it. I won't walk away now." Her violet eyes widened, shining with tears she tried to hide. She had been rejected all her life, told she was weak, told she wasn't worthy of trust. Yet here was a human ordinary, fragile, refusing to let her go. The hunters spread out, their glowing visors sweeping across the crates. Daniel clenched his fists. He didn't know how he was going to fight them. He wasn't trained, he wasn't strong. But he knew one thing: he would not let her fall into their hands. The shy alien girl whispered, her voice filled with something new. Not just fear, but hope. "Then I will trust you. With everything." Her words gave Daniel strength he didn't know he had. He peeked over the crate, eyes fixed on the glowing gate of Dock 12. It was so close, yet so far. The hunters moved closer, their weapons raised. Daniel knew they only had seconds. This was no longer just her secret past. It was their fight now. And together, they had to survive. The hunters closed in, their red visors glowing in the dim light of the loading bay. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy aimed straight at the crates where Daniel and the alien girl were hiding. The air smelled of burning metal from the last laser shots. Daniel's heart pounded. So loud he was sure the hunters could hear it. His hands shook as he pressed himself against the crate, his breath ragged. He was just a mechanic. He had never held a gun, never fought soldiers. But now, there was no choice. The shy alien girl crouched beside him, her violet eyes wide with fear but steady. "They won't stop," she whispered. "If they catch me, I'm gone. If you stay, you'll be gone too." Daniel looked at her, his chest tight. "Then we can't let them catch either of us." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. She didn't argue this time. She trusted him. Daniel peeked over the crate. The hunters were spreading out, moving with precise steps. Their voices were cold and mechanical. "Target near. Scan life signs. Terminate if necessary." His throat went dry. Think, Daniel. Think the gate to Dock 12 was only 50 meters away. Beyond it was the ship, their only chance of survival. But the hunters blocked the path, weapons ready. Running blindly would get them killed. The alien girl touched his arm. Gently. "There's a control panel by the wall," she whispered. "If you overload it, the lights will fail. They'll be blind for a moment." Daniel followed her gaze. She was right on the far wall. A glowing control unit buzzed with energy. If he could reach it, maybe they could slip past in the dark. But it was risky. Too risky. The hunters would see him moving. He could die before even reaching it. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, feeling his pulse race. Do it now or never. Her words echoed in his mind. He turned back to her. Stay low. When the lights go out, you run to Dock 12. Don't stop. Don't look back. Her eyes widened. And you? I'll be right behind you. She wanted to protest, but something in his voice stopped her. She bit her lip, then whispered, 1 chance. 1 chance. Daniel agreed. Taking a deep breath, he crawled out from behind the crates, keeping low. His body screamed at him to hide, but he forced himself forward. Each step felt heavier than the last. The hunters' visors flickered as they scanned the area. Movement detected. Daniel froze. A laser shot hissed past his shoulder, striking the wall. Sparks exploded. He ducked, heart hammering. Run. The alien girl shouted, her voice breaking through her fear. Daniel sprinted, weaving between crates. Shots followed. Him, bright beams burning the air. He dove behind another container, rolling hard, then pushed himself up again. His legs burned, but he didn't stop. Finally, he reached the panel. The hunters shouted commands, their boots pounding closer. Daniel's. Hands shook as he ripped open the cover, wires sparking inside. Come on, he muttered, yanking at the cables. He had worked on engines all his life. This wasn't too different. But one wrong pull could fry him instantly. The alien girl's voice echoed across the bay. Daniel. He looked up. The hunters had spotted. Heard they were moving toward the crates, weapons aimed. Daniel gritted his teeth. He had no more time. He slammed the cables together. A blinding flash exploded. The lights of the loading bay died in an instant, plunging everything into darkness. Sirens wailed as the system overloaded. Now, Daniel shouted. He heard her footsteps, quick and light. Running toward Dock 12. In the dark, the hunters' visors glowed red like demons. They fired blindly, lasers slicing through crates. Daniel ducked, rolling across the floor. He could feel the heat of shots grazing past. Human detected. A metallic voice growled. Daniel cursed under his breath and sprinted toward the gate. His lungs screamed, his legs numb, but he kept moving. He could see her ahead. The shy alien girl had reached the gate and was slamming her hand against the panel. Trying to open it? Come on, open, she cried. The gate groaned, gears turning slowly. Not too slow. Daniel glanced back. The hunters were charging, their glowing weapons cutting through the dark. He had a choice: turn back to fight, or throw himself forward and pray they made it. Without thinking, Daniel lunged toward her. Go, he shouted. The gate opened just. Enough. She slipped through first, her silver blue hair catching the faint light. Daniel followed, diving inside as lasers scorched the frame behind him. The gate slammed shut. Silence. Daniel collapsed on the floor, gasping for air. His chest burned, his body shaking from adrenaline. The alien girl knelt beside him, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. You did it, she whispered. You chose. Daniel looked up at her, sweat dripping down his face. Yeah. He panted. But it's not over yet. Beyond them, the small ship waited. Engines cold, systems dark. If they wanted to escape, they would need more than courage. They would need time, and the hunters were already trying to break through. The gate, the real danger, had only begun. The metal gate shook violently behind them, each impact echoing through the docking bay. Sparks rained down as the hunters tried to cut through. Their red visors glowed like fire through the cracks. Daniel's chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. Every muscle in his body trembling with exhaustion. The shy alien girl knelt beside him, her violet eyes still wide with fear. But now, there was something new in her gaze's determination. They won't stop, she whispered. They will break through. We must leave now. Daniel pushed himself to his feet, his legs weak but steady. He turned to the ship, waiting. At Dock 12, it was small, old, and covered in dust. Its engines were dark, as if no one had flown it in years. That's it, Daniel muttered. That's our escape. The girl nodded. It's hidden from their scanners. That's why they didn't destroy it. But it needs power. Can you start it? Daniel's stomach twisted. He was good with engines, but this wasn't a maintenance job. This was life, or death. He stared at the ship, then back at her. I'll try. They ran to the ramp, their footsteps echoing against the empty bay. Inside, the ship smelled of rust and cold metal. Panels were missing, wires dangled like vines. Daniel slid into the cockpit, brushing dust off the controls. The girl stood behind him, wringing her hands. Her voice shook. Can you do it? Daniel's fingers flew across the switches. It'll take a minute. We don't have a minute, she whispered, glancing back at the gate. The pounding grew louder. Daniel gritted his teeth. Then, trust me, I'll make it work. She fell silent, her eyes fixed on him. Trust, the very thing she had been denied her whole life. Now, she had no choice but to give it to him. He ripped open a panel, sparks flying as he twisted wires together. The console flickered weakly. The engine gave a low hum, then died. "Come on," Daniel muttered, sweat dripping down his temple. His hand shook, but he refused to stop. He thought of every ship he had repaired, every engine he had coaxed back to life. This was no different only now. Failure meant death. The girl placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Her voice was soft, but firm. "I believe in you." Daniel froze for a moment, the weight of her words sinking into him. No one had ever said that to him before. His heart steadied. His hands grew sure. He pulled another wire, slammed a lever down, and the console burst to life. Lights flashed across the cockpit, and the engine roared, filling the ship with a deep, powerful hum. "Yes," Daniel shouted. The girl's lips curved into a small smile, the first true smile he had ever seen on her face. "You did it," but the moment didn't last. The gate behind them exploded inward, metal tearing apart. The hunters stormed in, their red visors glowing brighter in the dim bay. "Target located." A voice boomed. The girl gasped. "They're here." Daniel grabbed the controls. "Strap in," he shouted. The girl stumbled into the seat beside him, fastening the belt with shaking hands. The hunters raised their weapons, red beams of light cutting across the ship's hull. The cockpit shook violently as shots hammered against it. "Hold on." Daniel slammed the throttle forward. The ship's engines roared louder, the floor vibrating. Beneath them, slowly, the vessel lifted off the dock. But the hunters weren't done. They fired grappling hooks, metal claws biting into the hull. The ship groaned under the strain, pulled back toward the bay. "They're holding us down." The girl cried. Daniel's jaw clenched. He pushed the throttle harder, but the ship barely rose. Sparks flew as the hunters anchored themselves to the floor, dragging the ship back. The girl's voice trembled, but her eyes shone with determination. "Cut the power to the rear clamps. If you overload them, the shock will throw the hunters off." Daniel blinked. "How do you know that?" Her cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin. "I used to hide in ships. I learned their systems. I know enough." Daniel nodded. "Then guide me." She leaned close, pointing to the panel. Their red switch, then the blue lever. Daniel followed her directions, hands moving fast. The ship's rear clamps sparked violently, releasing a burst of energy outside. The grappling hooks lit up with crackling electricity. The hunters jerked back, their armor sizzling. One by one, they lost their grip, falling to the floor. The ship lurched forward, breaking free. "Yes," Daniel shouted. The girl clutched the seat, her eyes wide as the ship shot out of Dock 12 and into open space. Stars stretched before them, the endless void of freedom. But even as the station shrank behind them, alarms blared on the console. The girl's smile faded. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll send more ships. They'll chase us." Daniel glanced at her, his chest heaving. He had risked everything to trust her, and she had trusted him back. They had survived for now, but the battle wasn't over. He tightened his grip on the controls. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." For the first time, she didn't look afraid. She looked strong. Her shy eyes burned with something new hope. The stars outside the cockpit stretched into endless lines of silver as Daniel forced the old ship forward. His hands gripped the controls tightly, knuckles white. Behind them, the space station shrank into the distance, but danger was far from gone. The shy alien girl leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the blinking red lights flashing across the console. Her voice trembled. "They're locking onto us. More hunters are coming." Daniel's stomach twisted. Sure enough, the radar showed 3 red dots moving fast from the station. Their engines burned like fire, chasing with deadly speed. They won't let you go, will they? Daniel muttered. The girl shook her head slowly. Not until I'm gone. Not until they erase me. Her voice was quiet, but Daniel heard the pain behind it. She had been running her whole life, and now the hunters were ready to end it, but not if he could help it. Daniel clenched his teeth and pushed the throttle. The ship rattled, old engines straining against the pressure. Sparks flew from the panels, and warning lights screamed. The girl's hands clutched the seat. The ship can't take it. We don't have a choice, Daniel growled. The hunters drew closer, their weapons glowing red. A beam shot past the ship, missing the hull by inches. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. They're warning us, the girl whispered. Next time, they won't miss. Daniel's mind raced. He couldn't outrun them in this broken ship. He couldn't outgun them, either. The vessel had no weapons. But he couldn't give up. Not now. He turned to her, his voice firm. There anything on this ship? Anything we can use? She hesitated, then nodded toward the back. There are fuel tanks, old, unstable. If we release them and ignite, it could blind their scanners. Daniel's eyes widened. It was dangerous, too dangerous. A single mistake and they'd blow themselves apart. But then he remembered her words. One chance, human, do it now. Or never. This was that moment. Show me how, he said. The girl hurried to the back, her hands trembling but quick. Daniel kept the ship steady, weaving through space as red beams sliced past them. The hunters were so close now he could see the glow of their visors through the VIEWPORT. Her voice shouted from the rear. Tanks released. You must ignite them. Daniel's chest tightened. He had no weapons. But he did have one thing: engine. Fire, hold on, he shouted. He slammed the controls, spinning the ship hard. The hunters followed, closing in. Then, Daniel flipped the release and pushed the engines to maximum. The ship roared as it dumped fuel behind them. A trail of glowing liquid floated in the dark, sparkling like starlight. And then the engines ignited it. A blinding explosion lit up the void. The hunters' scanners screamed with static, their red lights vanishing in the storm of fire. Daniel shielded his eyes as the blast shook the ship. For a moment, silence. Only the hum of their own engines remained. The girl stumbled back into the cockpit, her face pale. You did it. Daniel let out a shaky breath, sweat dripping down his face. I think we bought some time. But the console told a different story. The ship's systems were failing. The explosion had overloaded their engines. Red lights flashed everywhere, alarms blaring. We're losing power, Daniel muttered. The girl's eyes widened. If the engines die, we'll drift. They'll find us. Daniel's mind spun. He had risked everything, and it worked, but only for a moment. Now they were stuck in a dying ship, with hunters still somewhere out there. He looked at her, seeing the fear on her face. But he also saw something else: trust. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't silent. She believed in him, and that gave him strength. We'll fix it, Daniel said, forcing calm into his voice. I can keep this ship alive. The girl's lips parted, her violet eyes softening. You really think so? Daniel met her gaze. I don't think I know, because we don't have another choice. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Then I will help you. Whatever it takes. They worked together, Daniel pulling open panels while she handed him tools. Her hands steady despite the trembling in her voice. For the first time, they weren't just running. They were fighting together. Minutes passed, the ship groaning around them. The radar still blinked with distant red dots. The hunters were regrouping, closing in again. But Daniel didn't give up. He tightened the last wire, sparks flying, and the console glowed brighter. The hum of the engine returned, weak but alive. The girl smiled faintly, relief in her voice. "You did it again." Daniel shook his head. "We did it." The radar beeped louder. The hunters were almost back on them. Daniel gripped the controls, his jaw set. He had no weapons, no shields, no backup. But he had something the hunters didn't: courage. And now he had her. The shy alien girl, once afraid to speak, now sat beside him, her violet eyes shining with hope. This was their turning point. Together, they would either fall or rise. The hum of the old ship filled the cockpit, shaky and uneven, but alive. Daniel's hands tightened on the controls, his eyes fixed on the radar. 3 red dots blinked closer and closer. The hunters were not finished. They had regrouped, faster and angrier than before. The shy alien girl sat beside him, her violet eyes wide but steady. She was no longer trembling, no longer hiding behind her long silver-blue hair. She leaned forward, voice calm but urgent. "This is it. They won't give us another chance." Daniel nodded, his chest tight. "Then we make this one count." The hunters approached in formation, their ships sleek and powerful. Red beams lit up the darkness as they fired warning shots. The small vessel shook under the impact, alarms blaring again. The girl grabbed the edge of her seat. "We can't fight them. This ship has no weapons." Daniel's jaw clenched. He knew she was right. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and nearly out of power. But surrender was not an option, not for her, not for him. He looked at her. "Is there anything else on this ship? Anything at all?" She hesitated, then whispered, "There is one thing, an old jump drive. My mother once told me it was hidden here, but it's unstable. If it fails, we could be torn apart." Daniel's heart pounded. A dangerous gamble, but what choice did they have? "Show me," he said firmly. She rushed to the back of the cockpit, pulling open a sealed compartment. Inside, a small crystal-like device pulsed with faint light. She lifted it with trembling hands. "This is it. It can take us far away, if it works." Daniel swallowed hard. "And if it doesn't?" Her voice broke slightly. "Then this. Ship will tear into pieces." The hunters were almost on them now. Their voices echoed through the comms, cold and sharp. "Surrender the target, or be destroyed." The girl's eyes locked with Daniel's. Her voice shook, but her words were strong. "One chance, human. Do it now or never." Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard those words before, shouted in fear at the station. But now they carried a different weight. They were not only about survival. They were about trust, about hope, about believing in each other. He reached for the jump drive controls. His hands trembled, sweat dripping down his temple. The hunters aimed their weapons, preparing to fire. The girl placed her hand over his. Together, Daniel nodded. Together, he slammed the switch. The ship roared, the crystal bursting. With blinding light, the cockpit shook violently, alarms screaming. Space bent and twisted outside the viewport, stars stretching and breaking apart. For a moment, Daniel thought the ship would rip itself to shreds. The girl cried out, clutching his hand. "Hold on." Then dash silence. The shaking stopped. The alarms went quiet. Outside, the stars settled, calm and distant. The radar showed nothing. The hunters were gone. Daniel's chest heaved as he sat back in his seat, staring at the endless stars. They had jumped. They were alive. The girl's hands trembled as she let out a shaky breath. Her violet eyes shimmered with tears. "It worked. We escaped." Daniel turned to her, his voice soft. "We made it." She looked at him for a long moment, her lips curving into a faint smile. You were given one chance, and you didn't waste it. Daniel chuckled weakly, wiping sweat from his brow. Neither did you. The ship drifted quietly through the vast emptiness. For the first time since they met, there was no sound of boots, no red visors, no hunters. Just peace. The girl leaned back in her seat, her long hair falling gently around her face. She still looked shy, but there was something new in her now. Strength. You changed everything, she whispered. All my life, I was told I was weak, useless, unworthy. But you proved them wrong. Daniel met her gaze, his voice firm but kind. You weren't weak. You just needed someone to believe in you. And now, I do. Her violet eyes softened, tears slipping down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of fear. They weren't tears of freedom. For a long moment, they sat together in silence, staring at the stars. The shy alien girl who once spoke only in whispers had shouted for help, and a human had answered. Against all odds, they had escaped, not as strangers, but as partners. The universe was vast, and dangers still waited. But they had survived the impossible. And now, whatever came next, they would face it together. Daniel smiled faintly. So, where do we go now? The girl looked out at the endless stars, her eyes shining with quiet hope. Anywhere. As long as it's far from them, Daniel nodded. Then that's where we'll go. The old ship drifted forward into the unknown, carrying with it to lives bound by one desperate choice. And in the silence of space, the shy alien girl's words echoed. Forever. One chance, human. Do it now or never.